You are live.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is the House Rules Committee meeting on Tuesday, January 10th. Our first issue of business is committee appointments of the House Rule 90 panels. Representative Bartholomew, do you mind just hitting that little blue button there?
This one?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So I've been working with all House leadership on members and appointees for the following panels. The ones we're taking up today are the Sexual Harassment Prevention Panel, the House Discrimination Prevention Panel, and the Ethics Panel. So let's see. So the rules provide that the three panels consist of 5 members from the House without further qualifications for membership. In practice, the panels have had a mix of members by party. And just to note that House Rule 90 provides that each panel elects its own chair. So the nominees I have before you are the ones we've been communicating about. So let's start with the Sexual Harassment Prevention Panel. For this panel, I nominate Representative Burke of Brattleboro, Morwicki of Putney, McCoy of Houltney, Brannigan of Georgia, and Hedrick of Burlington. Any questions?
Can I make the motion so that?
And then we can do further discussion. Yeah.
So if you're okay with that, I'm going to just move the appointment of the nominees of the speaker to the Sexual Harassment Prevention Panel.
So Representative Long moves the appointment of those 5 members. Are there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Representative Long?
Yes.
Representative James?
Yes.
Representative Bartholomew?
Yes.
Representative McCoy?
Yes.
Representative Tooth?
Yes.
Representative Donahue?
Yes.
And I am a yes, so the motion carries 7-0. Now we'll turn to the House Discrimination Prevention Panel. For this panel, I nominate Representative Payala of Londonderry, Representative Burrows of West Windsor, Representative Small of Winooski, Representative Matos of Milton, and Representative Garofano of Essex.
Okay,
Sure.
Entertaining my motion, I
Yeah.
move the appointment of the nominees of the speaker to the Discrimination Prevention Panel.
Thank you. Any further discussion on these members and the appointments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the roll.
Yes.
Okay, you're behind me, so I
won't
want
touch you in a way.
Representative Long,
Yes.
Representative James.
Yes.
Representative Bartholomew,
Yes.
Representative McCoy,
Yes.
Representative Tooth,
Yes.
Representative Donahue,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. And then our last panel is the Ethics Panel. For this panel, I nominate Representative Malone of South Burlington, Sibilia of Dover, Representative Sheena of Burlington, Representative Beck of St. Johnsbury, and Representative Odie of Burlington.
I move the appointment of the nominees of the speaker to the Ethics Panel.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All right, I'll call the roll. Representative Long,
Yes.
Representative James,
Yes.
Representative Bartholomew,
Yes.
Representative McCoy,
Yes.
Representative Tooth,
Yes.
Representative Donahue,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everyone. We'll be making this announcement from the podium to make it to share the news with everyone tomorrow on the House floor. And I will be following up with the next round of appointments that we need to make for some joint committees. All right. So next we have House Standing Committee jurisdiction. So following up on our conversation on the floor last week, we have since the floor and over the past couple of days gotten some suggestions and feedback about committee jurisdiction, and Representative Donahue sent us some history on the House Healthcare Committee and the portfolio. That has been mailed to everyone, right? Did you get that? Okay. And it's also posted to the website. So what I would love, and I can open it up for discussion, but I have, like I said, gotten a couple more suggestions. And so what I would love to do today is to make the list of what we have heard, and if there are other suggestions of what people would like to discuss. And then we have another committee meeting where we can go through all of them together so that we have one resolution with all of the changes instead of one for everyone, I think, just to be more comprehensive in how we do that. So with that, I'll open it up and we can start. Representative Donahue.
Yeah, to respond to that, I mean, I agree and support the idea of spending some more time. The speaker might even want to consider maybe asking for a work group that would involve some of the committee chairs and rules board members to sort of do some of maybe the more time consuming to bring back because our committee ends up getting pretty limited on time. Just as one thought, one thing I'd like to see on the list is if we think that important broad-based principles should be listed in more than one committee, then I think there's some other critical ones that we should also consider, which may make it more mucked up and maybe we shouldn't be doing it at all. But when I think of social equity as being something that is more than a one committee, I mean, when we think of judiciary and corrections and education and commerce and all those different pieces where it is a primary issue. But secondly, I just want to say I don't support waiting on the change of language on healthcare, Brian China's motion on the floor that was then deferred, because unlike all the others, which are really a discussion of what should or shouldn't be in jurisdiction and so forth, I mean, this is basically language that's an error in contrast to our existing policy, our statutes, our health equity statute, and so forth. And if we had a similar kind of error, if we had used retarded as a word in a, we wouldn't wait for other work to be done. We would address that right away. And I mean, the only reason, as far as I understand, that we didn't address it right on the floor is that there was discussion to be had and we couldn't really delay appointing committees. But I think it should have been otherwise addressed right on the floor or within a day or two after. I don't think it should wait. I don't think it should be in our rules as it's stated now when it's, so directly contrary and violates our existing, our health equity commission work, our healthcare committee's work, and our statutes. So I would move that we make that one change, changing the term that says physical and mental health care and return it to just the word healthcare. Not changing any of the other additions that might be part of the further discussion, but that one term, and I would move that we make that change today.
Further discussion around this?
So in reading,
Go ahead. Yeah.
so in reading what we currently have, it would just say healthcare, health equity, health insurance, healthcare delivery improvement, and other
Right.
similar policies.
The other things, the other changes that were adopted would stay the same, but where it starts with physical and mental health, it would replace
say
it with
healthcare.
healthcare.
Physical, mental health, gone.
Right.
healthcare.
Representative Plum?
So I just need to share feedback that was shared with me from several members who came to me and asked that we not make a change celebrating. This is a perspective that I'm sharing that I've heard from more than one member, saying that they celebrated the distinction of mental health. I mean, this is aside to your perspective on it, that it was about time that we focused on mental health and called it out because this is what we want. So I'm summarizing up several different statements that were made to me, but they were all along the same thing. Don't change it back. We would prefer to see it this way. So, and I would just say, I'm not sure I'm in total agreement that we feel more urgency on this one based on just what happened on the floor that day. I because of the feedback I've gotten, I do think it does actually warrant some conversation.
So, I mean, I would just suggest if there are people that way, they ought to be going to the committee to ask for changes in our statutes and changes in our existing public policy, rather than saying we should make a fundamental change in policy in what we reflect in rules. And I wasn't suggesting it's different just because it was the one thing identified on the floor, but just that it's the only item that has to do with terminology that violates our statutes and policies, and is considered very offensive to most people who are in the psychiatric survivor community, for example. Those things are not necessarily ever 100%, but it's offensive and it violates our existing statutes.
Representative Donahue, and hearing some of the feedback and people feeling, I think we all agree that, and we celebrate that in Vermont, we take great care when it comes to healthcare and include mental health as part of that. That might not be clear to everyone who's learning our process and not familiar with our healthcare work. So is there any sort of path you could see in which we can somehow guide people towards a definition that it's holistic?
I think we could guide them directly to our principles of healthcare reform, which are our fundamental document. And that makes it really clear that we consider it a component of our healthcare system as opposed to something separate, but that it is definitely a component. The language is equivalent to other components of healthcare as a part of an integrated holistic system of care.
Is that a statute? Are you
That
reading
is,
from statute?
that is in our principles of healthcare reform in statute.
Could
that's
we
the
reference
language.
the statute? I don't know if that's ever.
I don't know if you do that in rules, but
May I call upon our clerk? Hi. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi. I know you've been following along in the conversation, and I'm curious, have we ever in past practice, like, referenced a statute or something to help sort of have a link to what we mean with the definition, knowing that it's something that might be fluid and inclusive and being worked on?
I am not aware of your rules up to this point cross-referencing statute. There could be something I'm not aware of, but at this point, I cannot recall a time when the rules cross-reference statute, although it's not impermissible, but I just don't think you've done that before, as far as I'm aware.
I'm open to further conversation. That was just one idea.
Right. So can you read what you had, Ann?
yeah, the statute addresses included in the principles mental health care, and I actually left out the first words. It was in the memos. Quality, access, and affordability equivalent to other components of health care as part of an integrated holistic system
Oh,
of
I
care.
see.
Right, okay, must be equivalent, yeah.
I'll let that sit with people to noodle on for a moment.
I guess it could be like a
So,
footnote and the statute at the end, as opposed to inserting it. I don't know, but it could be a little foot, one, whatever.
mhm.
statute. Which could then actually be referring to the whole of
That's
what
I'm
the
trying to-
jurisdiction is. It could refer to our statutory principles of healthcare reform as,
So, well, I guess what I'm trying to
Go ahead.
figure out, instead of having physical and mental health, can we just say healthcare as part of an integrated holistic system of care? Or is that not enough, or do people still want to separate out more? I don't, is that with that? Like, just take this part of this healthcare as part of an integrated holistic system of care? So I think you used the word holistic when you were talking as well.
yeah, well, if there's other language in the rules that's, proposed to be in, I've heard, for example, that instead of health insurance, it should really say healthcare financing to be broader. And I think all those things would be in the category of, proposals for clarifying parts of the rules overall, all of the different pieces of language. And whether that piece should be a part of it, I would think would be part of that. But just in terms of that one phrase, I think the substitute of just the term healthcare is what would address that problem with the with the discriminatory and yeah,
So I think what I'm hearing is that Representative Donahue would like this one piece fixed first because it violates what is in our statute, as opposed to perhaps looking at the document as a whole and going through and doing all of those.
which
I
don't
understand.
violate our statute.
Correct. And I understand the concern that some people still may have if you have to go back to those individuals that say, this, whatever, I took healthcare as part of a integrated holistic approach, holistic system of care, if that does it for them or not. But I get where Representative Donna, if this violates our statutes in the way we say what healthcare is, and you don't separate out physical from mental. My concern is, twofold. I mean, I don't like to piecemeal stuff out. I'd rather get it all done. And if we could get it all done in a day or two, I mean,
Yeah.
this was supposed to be done last Thursday, but then, circumstances beyond our control, we couldn't do it. And now here we are Tuesday. Can we come to some, can we get this done to present on the floor by Thursday of this week or something? So whatever it takes for this rules committee to come together and get it done. So we present on Thursday. Would you be, I know you're going to say no.
Well, I just don't think, waiting from today till
Yeah.
Thursday for this would be fine. I don't think there's any way that the work on the other pieces, the input and the, proposals and so forth,
Can
and
get done by
enough
Thursday.
time for us to actually work through them and decide
Okay.
potentially multiple ideas. I mean, I don't think there's any remote way that could be done this week. And I think delaying language that currently has been changed, leaves it as a kind of unacceptable status quo in the interim.
Madam Speaker. Hi. I just wanted to weigh in that I really appreciate Representative Donahue's request really since yesterday or last week was around making sure we have a process around our committee restrictions that is inclusive and participatory. So we're really being thoughtful about how we're defining our committees. And I actually like the idea of a task force taking some time to really look at all the committees so that we're making sure all of them have inclusive language and not just healthcare. So I would support Representative McCoy's suggestion about taking some time. I don't know if this is what you're saying exactly. So we can really make sure that we're applying that lens to all of the committees and doing our best thinking and not moving ahead only with healthcare, because there might be other areas we want to just get right. and make sure that we're doing this well and not taking one piece at a time. I think that's just better process.
But I mean, I totally support that process for the rest of it. There isn't anything else that's been raised that is language that directly contradicts our state public policy as it exists currently. And some people may not like it and may want to propose changes to our whole policy. But this is our current public policy. It's our current statute. And this goes against it and returns to a time when this was seen as stigmatizing, offensive, and hurtful. So there's nothing else in here that anyone has raised that is in that category of things.
Representative Long, and then I'll.
Just very quickly, I'm gonna totally hear what you're saying. No one's raised, but I wasn't aware that this violated statute, and I'm certain whoever wrote it didn't realize it violated statute, which means there could be other things in here that I don't know about that violate statute. I just don't know.
That violate our social equity.
Any type of statute, we're talking about statute, right? And if we're talking about violating statute, if we've done here, we should probably be mindful of that.
But I'm not just talking about statute. I'm talking about, you know, a public policy, a social equity factor that was included in our social equity work. If there's another piece that was equivalent to that, and it was raised, I would agree it ought to be corrected right away and not be part of an overall language section. This is one that we do know. And so I think delaying it is making a big statement of its own and not a positive one.
So I guess, number one, I think Representative Long has to go back to the individuals that came to you. I have not had anybody who come to me, so I don't have an issue with, you know, coming up with some language for health and moving that one along and coming back and doing the other 12 committees. But I want to make sure that the people that, you know, you have reached out directly to you, that if we can come up with, if everybody is in agreement to replace that one line and just get this one done and get the other one that way.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah, so here's an idea for us to work off of. So there are, just so folks know, some technical changes that are pretty straightforward, that a word was left out or a word needs to be added just to further clarify, that I would consider technical. And I know there are a couple others coming in today that may fall into that category. So if Representative Downey, I know you have a motion on the table, so this really is for you, but for the whole table, that let's say if we came together and met tomorrow morning to finalize this language and take care of technical ones, we could do that on the floor Wednesday at 3. And then we could have another conversation about starting a work group and some of the other things that may need more time and just might need more time. That's an idea.
I would be willing to amend if we knew for sure we were going to do it, you know, Wednesday or Thursday, even
Yeah.
if it was going to be done
We could
this
notice
week.
it tomorrow.
I would be comfortable with including technical corrections that we already know and then work further. I brought my schedule with me.
So
Make sure tomorrow morning.
We could, yeah, we can,
yeah.
but we
Oh, I
don't
know,
need to
it's-
have that conversation here, but we can find a time tomorrow morning at like 9 or 9:30 where I can have the list, I can send it out to you in advance. I'm still gathering things, and we can finalize this language, these 2 options we've been noodling on, and take care of the technical. And then we can figure out the long term on some of these larger issues. What do folks think about that?
That would give me time.
Yeah.
Or 50.
All right. So stay tuned on that.
Yeah.
We'll follow up. The last quick order of business is I just want to clarify, because we are in this period of time where all of the emergency COVID resolutions have expired, just want to be clear that our participation for remote authority is done on the floor. So there's no remote participation or voting in the House chamber during sessions. It is our custom and practice that in committee rooms, you can participate remotely after conferring with the chair, but your participation does not count as a member, so it wouldn't count towards a quorum, and you cannot vote. So just want to make sure we're on the same page about what that means. I'll also send an email out to all members to make sure we're all on the same page with just a couple other updates and housekeeping. Also, just if you can remember to remind caucus members if they haven't filled out their forms, the oath of office forms, disclosures, and remember if you are COVID positive to please report it to our appropriate email address so we can do proper contact tracing. All right, any other agenda items for
Do you need
future
me to
chairs?
officially withdraw my motion for the record?
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Donahue. All right, any further? Yes,
This
go ahead.
the last bit about the committee participation quorum, does that require any kind of rule change or are rules already clear?
It's our custom and practice.
Right. I know, so we don't need to change anything.
Right now, it's our custom and practice. All right,
I appreciate it. I just want to say I appreciate the clarity because
Yes.
there've been a lot of
Mhm.
questions around this, and I think this is going to be very helpful for House rules to make this.
How many people were here when Maxine was expecting her baby?
what's that?
How many people were members when Maxine was expecting her baby?
Probably nobody.
I was not a member, but I knew.
And because she had a crisis pregnancy and ended up having to be in the hospital for like a month.
And she
And
participated.
participated fully, didn't vote,
Yeah.
but participated by what was then teleconference. but-
Yeah, a little different. Yep.
Right.
All right, seeing no future agenda items, answering my question. Oh, did you have a question?
Just,
Sorry.
could you say, I'm sorry, one more time, Speaker Krowinski, what is the current deal with committees? What's allowed, what's not allowed?
Oh,
Sorry.
so members can participate remotely
Yeah,
in consultation with the chair.
okay,
But their presence remotely does not constitute towards a quorum,
okay,
and they are not allowed to vote. I will be clear, this is a future agenda item for us. The former House Rules Committee had talked about what like voting participation looks like, and now that we have a new House Rules Committee, we'll continue that conversation as well. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.